There's a quiet kind of person you've probably met without knowing what you were looking at. They don't drive the newest car. Their watch is ordinary. Their house is comfortable, but not impressive. And if you ask them, they tell you they're doing okay. Nothing more. And yet, if you could see the actual numbers behind their life, you discover something startling. They are quietly wealthier than almost everyone around them, including the people who look far richer. Here's the strangest part. Very often, that person has no idea. They're winning a game they don't even realize they're playing. This isn't a story about one unusual person. It's about a truth that almost nobody talks about because it contradicts everything we've been trained to believe about money. We assume wealth announces itself the luxury car, the big house, the expensive vacations posted online. But real wealth, the durable kind, is usually invisible. It hides in habits, in numbers, in quiet decisions that no one sees. And the result is that millions of people are far further ahead than they think, measuring themselves against a flashy illusion instead of the real scoreboard. So today, I'm going to show you 5 signs that you may already be wealthier than 90% of Americans, even if your bank account doesn't feel like it. By the end, you might realize you've been winning all along. Before we start, one thing to keep in mind. Wealth was never about the number that's flashing on someone's wrist or parked in their driveway. It's about security, freedom, and control. Things you can't see from the outside. Most people chasing the appearance of wealth are quietly broke. The people who actually have it often look completely ordinary. So as we go through these signs, don't measure yourself against what you see on a screen. Measure yourself against what's real. Let's begin. Sign 1. You can cover an emergency without panicking. This sounds almost too simple to matter. It isn't. The ability to handle a sudden, unexpected expense, a car repair, a medical bill, a broken appliance without spiraling into debt or losing sleep is one of the clearest dividing lines in all of personal finance. And here's why it's so revealing. A huge share of Americans, including many who earn impressive salaries, cannot do it. They live one bad week away from disaster, no matter what their paycheck says. Worth dropping in the current statistic on how many Americans can't cover a surprise expense. It's a striking number, and it lands hard. So if a $1,000 surprise is an inconvenience for you rather than a catastrophe, if you can absorb it and move on, you are already standing on ground that millions of higher earning people never reach. Think about what that actually means. It means you have a buffer, a cushion, a small wall between you and the chaos that swallows so many households. The person with the least luxury car and zero savings panics when the transmission goes. The quiet person with an ordinary car and a few months of expenses saved simply pays the bill and forgets about it. One of them looks rich, the other one is secure. And security is the first real brick of wealth. Most people just never notice they're laying it. Sign 2. Your money makes money while you sleep. Here's a question that separates 2 completely different financial lives. Does your money work or do only you work? Most people answer with their labor and nothing else. Every dollar they have comes from trading hours for a paycheck. And the moment they stop working, the money stops too. But if any part of your wealth is invested, if you have money in index funds, a retirement account, anything that grows on its own, then you've crossed the line that the majority never cross. You've hired a second worker that never sleeps, never gets tired, and never asks for a raise. And the reason this matters so much is the quiet power underneath it. Compounding. Money that earns returns, and then earns returns on those returns, grows in a way that feels slow at first, and then becomes almost unstoppable. The person who started investing even modest amounts years ago is now being paid by their past self, automatically, in the background, whether they're working or relaxing or asleep. Most people never build this. They earn and they spend, earn and spend, and their money never once works a single shift on their behalf. So if you have investments quietly growing, even small ones, you're not just saving. You've fundamentally changed how money flows through your life. You've stopped being the only engine. And that single shift, given enough time, is what separates the people who stay on the treadmill forever from the people who eventually step off. Sign 3. You feel no need to prove anything. This one isn't about a number at all. It's about a feeling. And it's one of the most reliable signs of real wealth there is. Look at the people around you who are loudest about money. The brand new car they can barely afford, the designer labels, the constant performance of success on social media. Here's the uncomfortable truth that decades of research into actual wealthy people keeps confirming the ones who feel the strongest need to look rich are very often the ones who aren't. The performance is expensive, and the money spent on the costume is money that can never become real wealth. Now flip it around. If you've reached a point where you genuinely don't feel the urge to impress strangers, where you can drive an older car without embarrassment, skip the upgrade you don't need, and feel no anxiety about what the neighbors think, that quiet freedom is itself a form of wealth. It means your sense of self isn't for sale. It means you're not bleeding money into the bottomless pit of comparison. The wealthiest people are very often the hardest to spot, precisely because they stopped playing the game of appearances a long time ago. They figured out that every dollar spent looking rich is a dollar that can't be used to actually become rich. So if you've quietly opted out of that game, if you measure success by your freedom instead of your audience, you're not behind. You're years ahead of people who still think the costume is the prize. Sign 4. You control your time more than most people control theirs. Ask yourself this. If you wanted to take a day off, handle a family emergency, or walk away from a situation that was making you miserable, could you? For a shocking number of people, including high earners, the honest answer is no. Their entire life is built on the assumption that the next paycheck must arrive, on schedule, forever, or everything collapses. They don't own their time. They rent it back from their obligations, one pay period at a time. That's not wealth, no matter how big the salary is. That's a beautifully decorated cage. But if you have even a degree of flexibility savings that would let you survive a gap low enough fixed costs that you're not trapped, the ability to say no to something without financial terror, then you possess something most people never get, even at very high incomes. Real wealth has always been measured in options, not objects. The person who can weather a job loss, take a lower paying job they love, or simply breathe during a hard month is wealthier in every way that matters than the person earning twice as much with no cushion and no exit. The freedom to choose how you spend your one finite life is the rarest luxury there is. And if you've quietly built even a little of it, you're holding something most people would trade their fancy cars to have. Sign 5. You live below your means, and it doesn't even feel like sacrifice. This is the quiet engine underneath all the others, and it's the single most common trait found in people who actually build lasting wealth. They spend less than they earn, not because they're forced to, not as a painful act of discipline, but because they've genuinely stopped needing more to feel content. Their lifestyle didn't inflate every time their income did. They kept the gap between what they make and what they spend, and they fed that gap into their future, year after year, almost without thinking about it. This is the exact opposite of how most people live. For the majority, every raise gets swallowed by a bigger lifestyle, a nicer car, a bigger house, more stuff. So no matter how much they earn, there's never anything left over. They're running faster and faster on a treadmill that only speeds up. But if you've reached the point where you can earn more without automatically spending more, where raise becomes savings instead of a shinier life, you've broken the cycle that keeps almost everyone else trapped. And here's the beautiful part. For the truly wealthy in spirit, this never feels like deprivation. It feels like freedom because they've decoupled their happiness from their spending. They learned that contentment was never something you could buy. And the moment you stop trying to buy it, the money it frees up quietly builds the real thing. Putting it all together. Step back and look at these 5 signs as a single picture, and you'll notice something. Not one of them is a dollar amount. Not one of them is a car, a house, or a number you can post online. They're all quiet, invisible. The ability to handle an emergency. Money that works while you sleep. freedom from the need to impress, control over your own time, and a life that costs less than you earn without it feeling like a loss. These are the real markers of wealth, and the reason so many people feel poor while quietly being rich is that they're staring at the wrong scoreboard. So if you recognize yourself in even a few of these, understand what that means. You may already be further ahead than the people you've been comparing yourself to, the ones with the louder cars and the curated lives. Wealth was never the performance. It was the security, the freedom, and the quiet control that nobody else can see. The flashiest people on the street are very often the most financially fragile. And the quiet ones, the ones who look perfectly ordinary, are very often the ones who already won. They were just too busy living a free life to announce it. You might be one of them and not even know it yet.